Welcome to Postcolonial Space. I'm Masood Raja, and we are still caught in the aftermath of the storm. But today I thought I should share with you some more thoughts about yet another topic. And that topic was suggested by some of the subscribers on the channel, and they wanted to know if I could speak about how to design a course on postcolonialism and postcolonial studies. I had just recently recorded a lecture on how to design and teach a course on literary theory, and I think that prompted them to request a sort of a guideline about how to design and teach a course on postcolonialism. So I'll be taking a few moments to discuss this, and I'll be using my own example, of course, as hubristic as it might sound, from the courses that I've already planned and taught over the years. As I discuss this, I will also post the links to both my graduate and undergraduate courses in the description so that you can go and explore the texts and how they're arranged and the weekly syllabus and everything else. Feel free to use them, adapt them, modify them to your own purpose. So here we go, how to design and teach a course on postcolonialism. So first, I must explain what are my objectives while designing a course. So whenever I design a course on postcolonial studies, first of all, I want my students to have a complex understanding of postcolonialism itself and postcolonialism as a field of study. Then I also want them to learn some major concepts and conceptual debates about postcolonial studies. Another thing that I want them to know is about the critiques of postcolonial studies, who has critiqued it and how. And then some knowledge of the main theorists of postcolonial studies, like people like Edward Said, Homi Bhabha, Fanon, and of course Gayatri Spivak. And after that, I hope to include in any given course on postcolonialism representative texts, novels, short stories from different parts of the post-colonial world. So they are spatially organized in terms of the geography, but also a certain temporality is also added to it. So some from the earlier period of post-colonial production, like during the contact phase, some the colonial period, and then some post-colonial and even diasporic authors. So these are some of the things in my mind as I design a course on postcolonialism. Now, please keep in mind that there are no simple definitions in postcolonial studies, and my hope at the end of the course is that people, my students, will understand in all its complexity as to what postcolonialism means or can mean. What does it include as part of its canon, both in theory and literary studies? And more importantly also, why is it that we include certain authors and certain regions in our canon? So that with that knowledge, they can further explore postcolonialism and then go and develop, their own way of understanding it, reading it, and teaching it. Now, please do keep in mind that I'm not explaining here in this lecture as to what postcolonialism is. On that, I already have two videos, one a basic explanation of postcolonialism, one an extended explanation of it. Then, of course, I also have a long webinar on postcolonialism available on the channel. And then I have about 50 lectures that cover different concepts of postcolonialism, like colonialism, imperialism, othering, alterity, all of these concepts. So after you watch this video, and if you're designing a course, I do strongly recommend that you should also either watch those videos or at least include some of them in your classes. So let's go into some further details about my courses. So in any given course, I first choose a theoretical text, a reader, or something that gives a broad explanation of postcolonialism, its major debates, and everything else as a field of study. Most of the times in my undergraduate and graduate classes, I use different books. For graduate classes, I have mostly used Ani Alumba's book on postcolonialism. For my undergraduate classes, I've sometimes used a short introduction to postcolonialism by Robert Young. So, what these books do is they give an understanding of postcolonialism as a field of study. They also inform students about the major debates of the fields, the major controversies, but also to the major scholars and theorists of the field, and a history of colonization itself. That's why Ani Alumba's book is really useful, because it doesn't just deal with the post-colonial phase, it also gives us an understanding of colonialism itself, and that's why the book is entitled Colonialism / Postcolonialism. And then along with that, I also use some essays that critiqued post-colonial studies in the past as it was developing. And that includes an essay by Anne McClintock, Ella Shoat, R.F. Derlich. These are the three major essays that launched earlier critiques of postcolonialism as it was being established as a field of study. I actually have webinar length lectures on these, and you can certainly watch those. The purpose of including those essays is so that the students know that postcolonialism isn't an uncontested, established field, that it has people who have criticized it from different points of view, and they have their reasons for it. And then I include about 30 or 40 concepts like imperialism, colonialism, orientalism, othering, cathectation, things that are pertinent to post-colonial studies, so that while they are reading a book on post-colonialism itself, they are also developing a catalog in their mind of most important conceptual philosophical terms pertinent to post-colonial studies. And then I also include excerpts from the works of major theorists like Edward Said and Gayatri Spivak, Fanon, Homi Bhabha. And the idea behind that is so that they are slightly aware of some of the works of the major theorists of the field of study itself. So this is all the conceptual knowledge that goes into the course. It's organized and front-loaded so that the students, before they start reading literary texts, have developed an understanding of what postcolonialism is, who its major theorists are, what are some of the main concepts related to the field, what are its critiques, and then they bring that knowledge to bear upon literary texts. Then for my graduate classes, I choose 5 to 7 novels, right? And the choice in that, of course, depends on which region of the world, some novels from Asia, some novels from Africa, and then some novels from the Caribbean. These are the regions that we include in post-colonial studies. And from them, then they have to be diverse. So some novels by women, some novels by men. Also, they have to be diverse in terms of their temporality. Some of them come from the contact phase, some of them come from the phase of colonialism itself, and some from the post-colonial phase. I also try to include some novels by diasporic authors, may they be from England or Indian diaspora or even the Caribbean diaspora. So all of these novels are meant to give my students some form of a representative fiction from different parts of the world, parts that were colonized, and then they are thematically different. Some could be coming-of-age stories. Some could be critique of neoliberalism. Some could be critique of, the familial system that existed in pre-colonial times. And all of that goes into picking the novels, choosing them. For example, the last time I taught my graduate course, I had Efuru by Flora Nwapa from Nigeria. I had the novel Joys of Motherhood by Buchi Emeshita, again from Nigeria. Then I used Ngugi Thiong'o's Devil on the Cross from Kenya, Miriam Cook's Hayati about Palestine, Kuratulain Haidar's River of Fire from India, and then also used Michelle Cliff's A Bank from Jamaica, and White Sargasso Sea, also from Jamaica by Jean Rees. So these are some of the texts that I use. There is no logical, well argued, and impeccable reason behind it, but to give an understanding of representative times, regions, and representative thematics of colonial experience and post-colonial experience. So when the students start discussing the novels, they have already read theory and theoretical texts. They have learned the concepts. They are privy to the debates of post-colonial studies. And then when they come to read a novel, of course, they apply that knowledge there, but then I also choose some essays that are specifically written about those novels. So that further hones their approach to how carefully they ought to read the novel. So these are some of the things about graduate classes. In undergraduate classes, I use a reader that I have put together myself. Sorry, I can't share it for copyright reasons, but this reader, after they've read the brief introduction to post-colonial studies by Robert Young, in the reader also there is a history of the scramble for Africa, of colonialism, which they read through. Then they read essays by people like Chinwe Zhu, Césaire, Ngugi Thiong'o, Fanon, right? And that gives them debates about how people thought about colonialism from different parts of the world. And they bring that knowledge along with the conceptual videos and lectures. And then they start reading short stories from different parts of the world, from India, from Egypt. Some from South America too. I use short stories by Garcia Marquez, and from Mexico, Carlos Fuentes and others. So these are some of the things that have worked for me and which I use. And most importantly, what I try to teach is that postcolonialism is not a monolithical field. It's not a settled field. There are different debates. And depending on where you stand, whether you're Marxist, whether you're a culturalist, whether you're a structuralist, are you a theorist of environmentalism, are you a critic of neoliberalism, it will decide how you teach the course, but how you also read post-colonial texts. I think the best recipe which I have learned through practice is to teaching it as expansively as possible without giving a precise definition of post-colonialism, but encouraging students to learn what different ways have people thought post-colonialism and still do think post-colonialism and why. And an understanding of the major theorists like Said and Spivak. So I usually teach an excerpt from Orientalism, an excerpt from Location of Culture by Homi Bhabha, and in my graduate courses we do study Can the Subaltern Speak? Now all of these resources are available on the channel in different playlists. There's a whole playlist on Orientalism. There are about 39 videos on post-colonial concepts. There are videos on Fanon. The only one I've not touched yet is Homi Bhabha. There are videos on Can the Subaltern Speak? So if you are designing a course, you can take a look at the links provided in the description, which will link you to my courses, my actual courses and their syllabi. You can read through them, modify them, change them according to your needs. Feel free to use them. And then you can also make use of all the video resources that are already available on the channel, all the audio resources that are also available on my podcast. So all of this combined should enable you to design an effective and useful course on post-colonialism. Now, I hope I have delivered what I had promised in the beginning, but if I missed something, or if there is something that you would like to add to this conversation, please share that in the comments, and I will definitely respond to that. And I would love to have some feedback from you as to whether or not this explanation, was good enough for you or not. So that's all I have. I hope you're all doing well and weathering this storm if you're in Texas. But also, there is a pandemic going on, so I hope you all are staying safe. Stay safe, take care of each other, and as always, I will see you next time. Until then, peace and love.